consultant and group facilitator. And I mainly work with groups in organization, as Chaim said, on development, leadership development and team development processes. And actually, it's very, very interesting for me to understand how an organization meets only in Zoom room, and all its communication is via video conference. Other than the written communication, all the relationships are either formed or not formed via video conference. So this is very interesting, very interesting. The question, can you see me, is very, very relevant for organizations, because an employee can think that he is not being seen by the system or by the organization or by his boss. So this is a very emotional question. Can you see me? Yet when we are dealing with video conference, can you see me is actually a very, very practical question as well, because internet connection can fall and the picture can freeze or whatever. So can you see me is actually also very practical question. So what I will try to do is to go along with these two aspects, the emotional one and the practical one, in this presentation. Before getting into trust, I want to bring up my friend Bernard Shaw, who said a few years ago that the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it had taken place. Now, thinking about Bernard Shaw and the reality that he was in, you know, communicating with people collocated, most probably the same culture and the same time zone and everything. If he thought the communication might be an illusion, then what kind of challenge do we have when we are, you know, going through so many different time zones and cultures and technology and so forth. Now, obviously, trust is all about communication, because if I don't communicate with you, definitely I cannot trust you. I don't know who you are and what do you want from me and what do I want from you and so forth. So the reason I chose to talk about trust from all the various very interesting topics that we can explore in video conference is, first of all, the trust is a very, very key component when we interact with people. And if I want to influence you, I have to have some kind of trust, okay? Because if you don't trust me, nothing will happen. The second thing, though, is that video conference has both, it's quite confusing because it has both characteristics that really hinder trust and characteristics that enhance trust. So both things are there. So it's very interesting to see how the characteristic really can imply into trust and how we can work it. So what I will do, I will give one definition of trust, one that I really feel is very helpful, and then we will go through few characteristics and we see how do they impact on trust and what can we do with them. The trust definition that I like the most is one of McAllister from '95. He says the trust is really about two aspects. One is the affect-based trust, the emotional bonds between individuals grounded upon expression of genuine care and concern for the welfare of others. So it emphasizes empathy, affiliation, and rapport. Other thing is, or the other one is cognition-based trust based on performance-relevant cognition, such as competence, responsibility, and reliability and dependability. So a person or participant can think, I'm really attuned to his needs, and I'm very attentive, and do a lot of very good emotional work, yet I don't know how to make the discussion, you know, the discussion flows, and in video conference it's much easier, and I don't know how to make them to the point again, or I'm not very skillful in the subject at hand. So of course we want participants to think we can be trusted both emotionally and cognitively, and that they can trust each other. But still, it's a very good, the separation really gives us some aspects that we can explore better when we go with this. So what happens when our communication is really mediated? I want to bring the media richness theory by Daft and Langer, and they say that once we have a complex issue and message, and there are a lot of interpretations that can be done, and we need context knowledge in order to understand, then rich media is a good option. Whereas we are sharing simple and explicit information like data, like numbers, we can have a lean media as well. So obviously the richest communication is the collocation one, like we have here. So we can experience the person in the whole body, we can touch him, we can smell him. Richest, all six senses are there. Next one is video, because in video we can only see. Yet, for people who can see, sight is the most, is the strongest sense. So maybe it's an illusion, but we have the illusion, but we sense that we have more control and more information when we see someone, whether he is happy with what we're saying or he is bored or whatever. So the video, when you can see people, really can raise a lot of trust if we are working with it good. And then the audio, only telephone, text, and so forth. It's very important to understand when or where or how the group was born. So if I start a leadership program in video, and it was born in video, then that's what the group knows. But if someone start collocation, face-to-face meetings, and they move to the video, then video is linear. It's more lean communication. And then a lot of times managers will start by audio conference with their team, and then they move the team to video. So then the video is rich, is richer media, but anyhow we know that transition causes changes and people do not like changes. So this is something to have in mind. So I will go over a few characteristics. I'm referring to the situation where each individual, like we have in the demonstration, each individual will sit in front of a screen. So actually what we will see, for example, if there are 9 participants, we'll see 9 boxes. Each box is a person, okay? Obviously, there are other situations like we talked when the facilitator is here and all the group is there, so there are only 2 boxes. But video is all about connecting people from remote places, so this will be the setting that I chose. First characteristic talks about the technological obstacle and issues. It comes with a package. If you don't want to experience it, don't go online. It's like in an hour and a half. If you don't have obstacles, it's rare. Okay, it's either the internet connection or the application, or 9 people each have their own equipment. Even if one person, his microphone is not that good, and it's like you have a bee in your ears, like you can go mad. So a lot of obstacles and issues can come up. And the meaning, the actual problem, okay, you need to not only facilitate the group, but also to have all kinds of actual problems that you need to fix. The other thing is blame. Okay, so when we are collocated, we have only the participants, the group as a whole, and the facilitator. Here we have the technology as well. So all our projections can go to this function, and it does. So who's to blame it really goes for the one extra factor that we have in our communication. The implication, obviously, where we have disturbances, it really inhibits trust, because maybe I'm very embarrassed for not knowing how to go about this technology, or I'm very frustrated because other person is not muting his button, or I'm suspicious because I'm not sure I heard right what he said. Maybe he said something about me. All of these are really things that inhibit the trust. So here the recommendation is, both emotional care and practical guidance. We need to be very, very patient with the participants and explain, what you need to do and so forth. And then practical guidance, the emotional care is all about saying, okay, it's okay. I know it's a new technology, it's a new space and so forth. Whereas the practical guidance is actually to do what we need to do. And then to learn from the here and now, because this is a new space. It brings up a lot of opportunities to encounter how do I behave and so forth. So there is a lot of here and now. For example, if a participant keep on turning off the internet connection is not that good, but he's very, very persistent, and he joined us by audio, that says something about him. Where the other one, if the internet connection is not good, he just go off. So there are a lot of here and now opportunities in this new space. And of course, the maybe I don't trust this technology says actually I don't trust myself in this technology. I don't trust you, Mrs. Facilitator, to bring us for a safe place, or I don't trust others. So there are really a lot of work to be done with this kind of thing. The second one is sitting in front of a screen. Okay, so it can make different subjective feeling and perception. Like I really feel safe because the screen protects me. Okay, down to wow, I can't feel enough. I can't. This screen is actually a barrier. So it can be all the way different perceptions. The implication will be, I feel safe means that maybe I'm more open. And often enough, I hear people that say, when I have a difficult message or I need to give feedback, it's much easier for me to say it over the screen and not face to face, because I feel I'm more protected by the screen. So this is something interesting to understand. Down to, you need to do more efforts in order to feel people, either if it's on chat or you bring pictures and so forth. But we have all kinds of subjective feelings and perception. I brought on only the extreme. The recommendation is like we do in groups collocated. So it's to explore all these kind of feelings and perception, normalize whatever comes up. But in order to normalize something, we really need to first be participating and understand it in order to have others to explore and normalize it. And definitely to leverage this openness that shy people have in video conference, and to help the people that needs more touch to find new ways. Third characteristic is seeing closely facial expression. So on one hand, seeing is video is all about seeing. As we said, when we see people, we can connect with them, we can understand better what's going on. Yet most people don't like to see themselves. Okay, they feel it's embarrassing. It's not a natural thing, and some people even put sticker on their picture. Although there is a feature that can hide, I don't tell them because I want to see how they what do they do. So it might be, you might feel it's also intrusive, because it's not only that I don't want to see myself, but others see me so big. Wow, not sure I want to see that. Okay, so at first we see a lot of this kind of responses, although when the group regulates, it tends to. But there are also people that is very stimulating and connecting and have a lot of reactions like, oh, you have a new haircut, or you seem sad, or you seem bored, or whatever. They actually intensify the communication. So the implication is that for the ones that feels it's more intrusive, that it might inhibit the spontaneous reaction. And then 2 days ago in the presentation, she talked about, I might be frozen. I don't want you to see my face in your face. So when I'm less spontaneous, people don't experience me as a person, and then it might inhibit trust. So here, once again, the recommendation is to make it okay. Whatever comes up is okay, and normalize it. And as I said, during time, even the people that do feel intrusive and embarrassed are more free. And then I also make them, I also tell them where the button is. So I'm sitting in my either private home or office, and there is a lot of personal background. Okay, this person, 2 years old, very impressive artistic for kindergarten, or pictures. Or where do I sit? Do I sit in the living room, in my home, in my office, in the kitchen, or forbid other places at home? Or do I sit in the office and I have a very nice, bay window office, or a very gloomy one? So it's all personal background that is very, very relevant. And then there are the unplanned occurrences, like your 3 years old is jumping on your shoulder and your spouse keep on passing, or your dog or cat or whatever, a lot of unplanned occurrences. Once again, people can think, I don't like this invasion. I don't want you to be here. And they can feel, well, welcome. So it's really, I call it, it's like I'm hosting the others, and also I'm being hosted by others. But when we first come to a video meeting, this is not a concept. We don't understand it. Only when we are there and people say, oh, that's a nice picture, and you say, what picture? You realize a lot of times that maybe there are things that you don't want others to see. This is a very, very interesting thing to explore as well. Once again, if I don't like this invasion, I may lock myself, or I can be very, very open and hence, and some people will take the laptop and show us all the surroundings. So it's very interesting to see the different reactions. Here, setting is very, very important, both to see that the participants, that there are all kinds of unplanned occurrences, really feel safe, and we do not use these unplanned occurrences inappropriately. On the other hand, we really need to also protect the ones that have inappropriate exposure. For example, sometimes people, although it's a meeting, a work meeting, may take the meeting from their bed. This is inappropriate, okay? So we really need to have settings.
And sometimes they are not alone.
Yes. I didn't have this yet, but I'm sure sometimes it will be. So limits and setting in this video is very, very, very important, not only in this meeting, but other meetings as well. So to sum up, trust is a very, very critical factor, definitely when we interact remotely. and we should take into consideration this confusing quality of the video conference and know it. So, some of you may say, okay, this is such a headache, I don't want to do it at all. Others can say, okay, this is like a copy-paste from collocation group. Well, the recommendation is to try and to experience it as a participant and to see there are different characteristics that are video conference specific. And in the book, From the Couch to the Screen, actually we include a lot of food for thought and recommended practicalities. Coming back to our friend Bernard Joe, that said that the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it had taken place. I do hope the communication did take place this time. So thank you very much.